series, Quarantine Creatives. COVID-19 has changed a lot for all of us, and we're all adapting this beautiful autumn to bring you new virtual programming. And more than anything, Tamaqua Museum's Indigenous Empowerment Network is uplifting and engaging Indigenous artists and supporting them in collaborating on this project in order to share their knowledge and celebrate their diversity, their creativity, their ingenuity as Indigenous artists, and how they connect to issues that are going on today. Thank you for joining us for this virtual discussion, which is made possible thanks to funding from the United Way, the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts, the Rhode Island Council for the Humanities, the National Endowment for the Arts, and people like you. You too can support programs like this by making a tax-deductible donation to Tamaqua Museum. Links are in the chat box. Just a quick reminder before we get started, please make sure you are all on mute. We will have time to take your questions at the end of the interview, so please use the chat box to type in your questions and we'll go through them as we receive them. Use your reaction buttons, thumbs up, claps, or any other reactions to show your enthusiasm. And if you're having technical trouble, use the chat box and private message Tamaqua Tech for assistance. Before we begin, I just want to take a minute to introduce myself and do a land acknowledgement in my language. Namanatumen, Napiomen, Ingin Kisakwat, Nashbi, Nachikwanahi, Tahanonash, Katabatamish Katantua, Uchiwami, Nawamani Tonk Natangsawag. Natasuis Loren Spears Englisha, Natasuis Makasni Pashao at Nahai Gansek, Ni Nahai Gansek Nahantek, Kanupiam at Aki at Nahai Gansek. Ninaj. So what I said to you in my language is I gave thanks to the Creator for the beauty of this day and the beauty of all of our beloved relations. And in our way of thinking, relations are all things, all living things, animals, plants, humans, but it's also the stones in the soil, the things that make up Mother Earth. And I introduced myself in my traditional way. My traditional name is Makasni Pashao, and which is the moccasin flower or the lady slipper. And I also introduced myself as Loren Spears, and I am the executive director of Tamaqua Museum, and I am Narragansett Niantic. And I also stated to you, welcome to the homelands of the Narragansett people, which is the majority of what we consider Rhode Island today. And the Narragansett tribal nation is the only federally recognized nation in the state of Rhode Island. And it intersects with other tribal communities before European contact here on this land. I now would like to introduce Canden Robinson. Canden is a 35-year-old Narragansett woman, a devoted mother to a 6-year-old son who is battling with developmental disabilities, autism, and ADHD, to be exact. She's a self-taught artist, a graphic designer, an embroiderer, and a seamstress. As a woman in recovery, Canden began painting, utilizing her art for therapeutic purposes. She spent the last year living in a homeless shelter with her son while working every day and supporting her son through special education distance learning during this pandemic. These challenges only increase her drive to be more creative in her visual life story. You can find more about her on her Instagram, her Facebook, her Twitter, and we're going to post all that information in the chat. But first, let's welcome Canden Robinson to our discussion today, our Quarantine Creatives.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Kanupiam. It's so great to have you, and I certainly love all the beauty that's behind you. I'm sure sitting in that space with that lovely sunshine and the beauty of those images give you inspiration along with your young son, because that's always such a joy, but also can be a challenge to be a mom and to be engaged in taking care of someone so young with learning disabilities.
Yes.
So I was wondering, Canden, if you might share with the group how you became an artist. You know, everything from your embroidery to your seamstress work to the art that you're doing today.
Well, it actually started when I was a kid. My grandmother, who is Native American, Dorothy Northup is her original marital name. Well, I'm sorry, it's her original name. Her marital name is Robinson. But she was very artistic. Every weekend we would go over to our house. She would have us drawing. I mean, she would start with like the basics, the lines, the this. And it was just so wonderful to me how great my grandmother was with her art. And not only just her, but my grandmother has 10 children, my mom being one of them. All of my grandmother's children are all artists. So we come from a family of artists in many different ways, of course. With me, I do my acrylic painting, but I also do the embroidery and graphic design and all that kind of stuff. Because to me, honestly, being an artist in any kind of way is a way of utilizing your mind. You know, instead of leaving your mind idle, it's letting those visions, or whether you're sad or happy or things like that, it lets that just flow in any kind of way possible. So that what really intrigues me about art. So yeah, it actually comes all the way from when I was a kid growing up. My grandmother also taught me how to sew by hand. That's when I started. I started sewing by hand, and I got so good at that that people were like, well, what kind of machine are you using? And at that time, I never used a machine in my life. Yeah, like my stitching by hand was so well together that everyone really thought I was using a machine. I'll be honest with you, I did not use a machine until I was like in my 20s. I'm 35 years old now, but yeah, so most of my things were hands-on, regardless of what it was. Growing up, we would go to, you know, the native lands out in Charleston, over, you know, where we live. It's in Charleston. My grandmother would take us down to the stream or to the waters, and she would explain to us about the nature and the earth, and you know, all of the things that go into our culture. And that itself also got me into wanting to be creative. I wanted to paint. I painted waters, I painted trees, I painted, you know, the sky and the earth. And, you know, so it's a lot. With life in general, it's a piece of art, regardless of what you're doing, you know, regardless of what it is. It's all art, whether you're a mechanic or anything, you know, so it's just very intriguing to me for the creativity. Being creative is something that really takes me a long way.
Wonderful. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you, you certainly can share your screen whenever you're ready, but I was thinking about how when you were, that you might describe your artistic style and how you, you know, think through your creative process when you're deciding what you're going to paint.
Well, my artistic style is, it, to be honest with you, it's more of a what's on my mind type of thing. Like you said, you know, you told everyone I been through a lot in my life. I deal with a lot on a daily basis. So my mood changes, you know, so it's not always just, okay, well, I'm going to paint about this or I'm going to paint about that, which is why a lot of people do like my art, because most of the time when you see an artist, a lot of the times they have a lot of the same theme going on, or this, you know what I mean? Mine ranges, again, you know, between nature, my culture, as you can see some of the stuff back there. I got dream catchers. I got, you know, picked paintings from our annual meetings. But then I have times of, you know, sadness and what we've been going through, especially with the BLM, I believe it is, the Black Lives Matter thing that's going on. So I painted a little bit about Rosa Parks. You know, it all depends on what type of mood I'm in. I don't really have a specific type of style. You know what I mean? It's just, I go with whatever is on my mind and I can't help it, you know? So yeah, it's all different things depending on the day, time, mood.
Yeah, that's the beauty of art, is that you can reflect on what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you're seeing, and that's really powerful. Why don't you show your screen so that the audience can see some of your close-ups of your art, and
Okay.
maybe you can tell us about your paintings and what inspired you in the
Okay.
work that you're sharing.
All right, here we go. Give me 1 minute while I set it up. Okay, I believe this is the one. All right, I have to kind of go back through it. Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry about that. All right, we're gonna go to this. All right, so I'm gonna start from the beginning. As you can see, I have my own logo, which I created, Cans Arts. That starts us off. This kind of gives a little bit about my personal, professional, and artistic background. You said most of it when we had started, but as far as right here, this actually gives you an idea of some of the things I've done. You know, with my art, I've done a lot of events. I did the Conception Art Show in Boston, which was it was actually last year, not too long from being that anniversary time, because we're in October, but I did the Boston show there. I did the Redemption at Sky Gallery, which is in downtown Providence. I've done some exhibitions, which was through the Rhode Island, it's RISCA, but it's the Rhode Island State Council of the Arts. Yeah. I believe the name of it is. I did the Black Art exhibition there in downtown Providence. I did the, down here, this is like a Family Services of Rhode Island, if you can see where I'm pointing to. The Family Services of Rhode Island, they deal with a lot of, you know, children that go through a lot, children that were taken out of their home. I actually did an art exhibition for them, which was really touching for me. But again, here's my websites and where you can find me. Again, you guys will put that in there for everyone else to see. This here, I did this painting in 2019. I named it Native Warrior. It's actually my uncle. It was my uncle. I had moved away from Providence, Rhode Island, and I lived in Texas for a while. Before I left, I actually went to one of our annual meetings. I think it was in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. When I took this picture of my uncle and decided to paint it. So this right here it was like a little going away, you know, being able to be around my family before I left the state. So this really meant a lot to me, taking this picture of my uncle, which was why I painted it. So that was the meaning behind this particular here. It was really sad because, I mean, I was just going to another state, but it felt like I was going away forever. You know what I mean? So it was tears and all that stuff. So that's what got me to paint this picture here.
Maybe Canden explain, or if you'd like me to explain to the audience what the meeting is you're referring to. I understand it.
I'm sorry. We here in Rhode Island, we have an August meeting. It's the powwow, the actual Native American Indian powwow that we have every year. Everyone's welcome. We all go. We have a good time. There's a lot of dancing, food, a lot of items that you can get to take home as souvenirs, things like that. So it's our annual gathering where we actually get together and you know, give our respects to our higher, you know, and so that's basically what it is. If it makes it to be a little bit more broad, it's the Indian powwow. That's what a lot of people look at it as.
And folks can find on our YouTube page a mini description. It's called a mini exhibit that's on our August meeting exhibit, powwow exhibit here, so that you can learn a little more. And also you can find on YouTube wonderful videos from past powwows if you do Narragansett August meeting powwow.
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next one. This here, what caused me to actually, well, this is actually a drawing, to be honest with you. This isn't even paint. This is just pencil and paper, honestly. Yeah, I did this just sitting, I was in the shelter, the homeless shelter at the time that I drew this here. And I was actually showing my son, we were going through some of the videos of our annual meeting that we were just speaking about, the powwow. And I happened to come across it's one of our elders. My mom was telling me, she's like, you know, that's one of our elders. I have to say, from what I know, he had passed on, you know. But there were videos of everyone dancing, and I'm showing my son, and this particular gentleman stuck out to me. He had, as you can see in my drawing, he had all the feathers and, you know, all the regalia on and everything. And it was just such a beautiful sight that I had to take a screenshot of the video And, you know, and I'm like, it's just too beautiful to me, for me not to like, and at the time being in the homeless shelter, I didn't have my paints and my paintbrushes and things like that. So I had just my pencil. And I stayed up till about 4 o'clock in the morning sketching this out. So that's how I got to do this. And I named it Commander in Chief because that's the only thing that came to my mind while watching this video. And it was just a beautiful sight to me. So that's basically what that was. And again, that was last year as well. Let me continue. This is one of my newest pieces. I did this maybe last month. I can't really explain what came to my mind, but I was going through a lot at the time, and I was kind of fighting with myself inside of myself about a bunch of different things. And I was just distinguishing the differences between, you know, when we moved into our apartment after leaving the shelter, and, you know, trying to find a way to make sure that I was set up for my child to start school and all that stuff. So I thought about, just as you can see, distinguished. I thought about some, you know, painting something, and I started with a couple of strokes, and I'll be honest, I left the strokes there for about 2 hours, and I'm like, I don't know where I'm going with this. I just don't know. And then something drew me back into my art room, and I just started stroking. I'm just, you know, stroking and stroking, and I came up with this, and it made me feel happy, considering what I was going through at the time. It made me feel really happy, and I just went with the flow with this one, and I named it Distinguished because that's what was going on in my mind at the time.
It's stunning. I just love the power in it.
Thank you.
If anyone has any reactions, feel free to put them in the chat and we can look at them after. And of course, any responses through the reaction buttons. Thank you. I see Karen was clapping for you because it's so powerful.
Thank you.
Actually look at this one for a really long time. There's such energy and emotion and character, I guess, in the painting that's just draws me in. And you know,
actually, it's funny about this painting as well. Go on.
No, you go on. I was going to ask you to
continue. When I finished it, you know, the vision that I had when I was doing it, when I finished it, I actually saw more than what I had envisioned. You know what I mean? I'm looking at it on my own, and I'm like, I see this and I see that. And, you know, a lot was coming to me while I was looking at it. And I was like, I didn't even, you know, expect to see any of that while I was doing it. But it's there. And that's one of my favorites, actually.
Can you give us an example of what you see?
Well, at the time, I did not plan on painting anything that's not supposed to look like a hand. But if you look to the right of the painting, well, if you're looking at it, it's on the right. It looks like her hand is up, like, you know, with the nails. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, that wasn't in my vision. You know what I mean? It was just supposed to be like a cloak that she had on, maybe standing in the rain, or, you know, just, I was in a bad space at the time. And then I noticed, you know, that she was also happy. So I'm like, okay, well, that's something that I wasn't really expecting, but that's part of art, you know, whatever goes, goes, and whatever you see, you see. So I'm going to continue. This right here, I drew this after I took my son to a zoo. My son, with his autism and ADHD, he's very afraid of animals of any kind. So it was our first time at the zoo. It was very difficult, but there was this one tiger there, and he was a black and white tiger, and he was the most beautiful thing. But I felt so bad for him because he had these eyes of sadness. You know, it made me feel really, really bad because he did not look happy, and he should, at the time I'm looking at him, like, he should not be in this. I don't know, it's something about zoos that just really gets me down, and I feel so bad for the animals. So this particular animal stuck out to me, and when I got home that day, I had to paint him. I had to paint that face that I saw, you know. So I named it the Sacred Eye because you can tell that he had something within himself that was really, really, really sacred, and I felt terrible for this animal. So that's where this comes from. My day at the zoo with my son.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna carry on if I can find, okay. All right, and this here, this is a recent painting I did for the Strawberry Art Contest that we had. Hold on one second, honey. The Strawberry Art Contest that we had a couple of months ago. I actually got an honorable mention from it. It felt wonderful. Yay!
And I do
So,
want to tell the audience, she got an honorable mention, but we had hundreds of people across the nation that voted because it was a publicly juried show. So that was wonderful.
yeah, it was. It was awesome. And, you know, so that's basically what that named it Strawberried. And here, this, honestly, this is, it's a 3-piece set. I don't know if you can tell, it's 3 different pieces. The bottom 2 are the bottom 2 are 4x4 and the top is 8x8, which I forgot to write it up in here. I just put the 8x8, but this basically, I wanted to go like with the feather flow, but more of like a peacock color. You know what I mean? This was also, I did this again, after leaving the zoo, because they had this beautiful peacock that continued to run around and follow us. And my son was petrified, but it was beautiful. So this was another one that, you know, the zoo inspired me to do. So that's basically, I called it Beyond Feathered. Thank you.
I love the creativity because it kind of has an abstract feel. But if you look at our logo design, it also has that basket stamp design feel to it. So, you know, that cultural knowledge kind of comes through in your art.
Exactly. And that's kind of where I was going when I did this as well, you know, but it was the colors that really stuck out to me, that made me feel kind of in a good mood. All right, I'm going to continue. I don't have too many more. This here, I called it Soft Spoken. This was made, I used to be in a class at the CCRI where we would speak to people based on, you know, experiences, people that were going through, you know, dealing with drugs and alcohol, or people that just needed therapy for mental health issues and things like that. And there was this woman that wore this bright pink lipstick and she was going, when she told her story, she was going through a lot. But every time she came in, she looked so beautiful. So you would have no idea that she was going through what she was going through. And painting this, I painted this on behalf of her because she was always sitting there with a smile with her pink lipstick. And it was just the most beautifulest thing to hide all that pain behind those beautiful smiles, you know. But she was very soft-spoken, which is why I named this painting Soft Spoken. So that's where this came into, from the program that I was in 2019. This is also acrylic on canvas. I'm going to continue. I don't want to keep you guys for too long. Now, this is a different design. I actually have a few of these when it comes to like a style or theme. And these are like more of an acrylic pour. What you do is you get a medium, a liquid medium, and you add it to your paintings and you just continue to pour and you shake and when I do it, I actually, it may sound weird, but when I do it, I actually say a prayer while I'm doing it. So I don't know if it actually has anything to stick with the actual painting, but I say a prayer while I'm doing it, and it comes out whatever way. I could never do this again. You know what I mean? Like some paintings you can actually do again, but this, it won't work.
I absolutely love that. That just speaks to me in so many ways. I love the way that you're describing the way that you process the painting and the artwork in a therapeutic way.
Yeah.
I wonder if you might speak to that a little more, because maybe other people that are thinking about starting to do some artwork might use some of your strategies.
Well, when it comes to this particular type of style, as far as the acrylic pour, which is what I call it, it's more of, again, like how my mood is. Like if I'm in a happy mood, you know what it is, honestly, Lauren, it's the coloring. It's the coloring. Now, like I said, I have a few different paintings of acrylic pour. Some of them have dark colors, which means that I wasn't in such a great spirit that day. Something bad happened, or something just made me feel down. And then I'll have bright colors, which means that I was in an okay mood. I was happy. Let me get this, you know, let's get this painting going. Let's go. So it all, again, it all depends on the mood that I'm in. If you see more of my acrylic pours, which if you go onto my website and all the social medias, you will see them. You'll be able to tell what type of mood that I was in by just looking at the colors and the way that if it was shooken up more, there would be a lot more grooves in it. You know what I mean? If I was angry or whatever, but if it's just kind of flowy, you know, that I was kind of calm and in a good mood. So you can kind of tell my mood by my pours, which is good. I love it. And let me.
I love your creative title too.
Thank you. Thank you. Now this here, this is based on, again, like when I talked about the BLM, the Black Lives Matter. This painting here, I named it "Without Justice, There Is No Peace." And what made me paint this is, I'll be honest, I've watched a movie called Juice. I'm not sure if anybody has watched that movie. And in that movie, and it's such an older movie, but in that movie, they spoke about, you know, not basically Black Lives Matter, but it was a lot going on between certain types of cultures, whether it was the Black culture or, you know, the Hispanic or, you know, that type of thing going on. And I never realized that when I watched it, when it came out, but I watched it again recently and I seen that. So that's kind of what made me draw this picture, because at the time we were going through all this BLM, Black Lives Matter, you know, police brutality and things like that. So that's what got me to draw this. And I drew it. And if you look at his eyes are like, they're sad, but at the same time, they are, how do I say it? They basically have their guard up. You know, they know that anything can happen at any time. And they're kind of, you know, I can't explain it. They're ready to take on whatever's coming their way. You know what I mean? So that's when I had painted that, and I wanted his eyes to kind of seem like that. Like, it's like, okay, I know what's going on, but I'm ready for whatever's coming my way. So
like
that's
your perseverance through the trials.
exactly. So that's what that painting came about. And now this is actually my last slide. I did this honestly, I did this on a huge piece of wood. And at that time, I was losing my apartment. When I painted this, I was losing my apartment, and I knew that I had to go into a homeless shelter with my child. So I named it "No Water Runs Dry" because I cried so much during this time. Because at the time I didn't know what I was going to do. I had lost my job. There was a lot going on. So I was in a very, very sad place when I did this. So as you can see, the lightning, that was like the impulses going on in my brain. Like, what am I going to do? Who can I look for help? You know, things like that. But at the same time, my crying, you know, my tears were flowing into the water because I was letting the earth take away my pain, you know, and that's my mood when I was doing this. And I still have this painting. I still have it. And it's too big really to like put on my wall. So this would definitely have to go somewhere, you know, but that's how I was feeling when I did that painting. And even just thinking about it now kind of puts my mind in that, you know, remembrance of that time. So that is the end of my slide.
So I'm wondering what your future goals are. What plans you have artistically that you've got, you know, coming up.
Hold on one second. I'm sorry. Do you got me back? I just want to make sure. Oh, okay. Well, my future goals, honestly, I plan on getting a lot of, I plan on doing more work, of course. I will never stop being an artist. I don't care if I'm 100 years old, but I do plan on getting a lot more of my work into galleries. Like I've done exhibitions and, you know, exhibits and things like that. But I do want to get a lot more of my paintings into actual galleries, which would be really nice. I would also like to start a class. I thought about this when I was in the homeless shelter, starting a class. I'll have a class for children and a class for adults where I can actually sit down with them and teach them how to paint, you know, get all the supplies and teach them how to paint, and not even just how to paint, but to paint what they're feeling at the moment, to paint anything that's going on in their life, to get it out on paper. It's just like talking to a therapist. You know, if you're talking to a therapist, you get that off your chest, and painting actually helps that as well. You're getting whatever that mood is, that vision, that pain, that sorrow off your chest, and putting it on a piece of paper or canvas. Like, you know, when I paint, I actually go back and I look at my paintings and I just remember. And it's like, I just left that behind. There it is. You know, so I definitely plan on doing art classes. I plan on getting my work into galleries. And to be honest, my 6-year-old son, he's also a painter. He is a painter. I've put that off on him to the point where he actually will stay in his room for hours. Just, he has a sketchbook and he'll draw and draw and draw. And if you look over here, if you can see that right there, it's kind of hard to see. I don't know if you can see it, but that's one of his paintings. Yeah, that's one of his paintings. And that's supposed to be him. That's supposed to be him chasing a car. Because he wanted to go to the park that day. And I told him that we could not go to the park that day. I'm trying to think if it was, I believe it was really, really cold. And I'm like, no, park today. So he decided to draw himself chasing the car to go to the park. So he's already in that state, you know, where he wants to be artistic as well. So if I can give that to someone else, that's what I plan on doing, whether it's through art classes, galleries, or my son.
So that's wonderful. A couple of things I'd like to share with you, and I'm going to say it right now because other people might not be aware, but the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts, which I serve on the board there, they have an initiative called Arts and Healthcare, and you can actually get training to work in health facilities to do exactly what you're talking about doing and that you do for yourself and for your child. You'd be able to share that expertise and that experience of expressing your emotions through your art with as kind of an art therapy. And so they do have a whole program for that. So I'd love to connect you and others to that through the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts. It's a pretty new program, just a few years, but you can actually write a grant. And through our Indigenous empowerment work, we'd be happy to help you write a grant to them to start that kind of work. Silver Moon, myself, and other staff here have supported Native artists to do their first grants to get them started. Because once you have a process, it goes a little bit easier.
Yes.
And of course, we've mentioned to you as well recently, because we're newly connected to your art through the art. People might not be aware that we selected the artists for the series because of the art contest back in June. So it's introduced our audience of people to a lot of new artists that some of which we weren't familiar with, like Canden and her beautiful creativity that's been expressed here.
Look, Mommy.
And oh, we get to say hello.
There he is. Say hi.
Hi.
Hey, look, and he actually is showing me, he got this sand so that he can create some things, kinetic sand. Go ahead, go make me something.
And so I'm wondering, Canden, if I'm kind of going back a little bit to your embroidery and to your sewing, and I was wondering, you told us that you do that, but I was wondering if you could describe some of the works that you've done in the past in relation to that.
Yes, I actually, if you can give me 1 second, I can actually show you something. Give me 1 second. Yep, hold on.
In our Native community, there's quite a lot of elders who do embroidery, and it had been an art form, and maybe that was introduced as a Eurocentric art form, but a lot of them thought of it very much like historic beading and porcupine quill work and fur, like bear and deer tufting, which kind of has an embroidery component to it. So even though embroidery may feel Eurocentric, there's a lot of traditional art forms that incorporate embroidery, like porcupine quill embroidery and things of that nature.
Oh. I'm back. Now with this particular thing right here, this is on a piece of clothing, of course. Because I actually, to be honest with you, I embroider toilet paper, which you'll be able to see on my social medias as well. I do them for many occasions, like birthdays. I do funny ones for like Christmas. Like I had one with Santa Claus bent over putting the gifts under the tree. And yeah, so I embroider toilet paper. But this right here is on a pair of shorts. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, wow.
And honestly, that's my son.
That's amazing. Now that's another next level of embroidery. That it was well worth the wait to see that. Wow.
And if you go on to my Facebook and you type in G like, just the letter G, and then like jeans, Genes, like jeans, like a jean, that will pop up. And what it is, it's a picture of my son when he was 2 years old. His father started his own brand of clothing and he named it G Like Jeans. So you'll see the physical picture of my son with the hat on, and then you'll see the embroidered version. So I can take anything. Yeah, I can take anything and put it into and embroider it.
Well, I guess we'll have to put you to work on that. Oh my word, that was amazing.
I've even embroidered. I did a sweater for my mom, which I can't show it physically, but it's also on my social media, and it has the actual Native American logo, not Native, but the Narragansett logo. So I've done many different patches for the not the Niantic. I'm trying to think of it. There's Joseph Wormsley. He has a different type of native tribal thing going on. So I did a few patches for him. So when it comes to the embroidery, again, it's the same thing, whatever I'm thinking about. If I want to just create something, I'll draw something and then just put it through the digitizing system and embroider it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And I was curious about the kinds of things that you sew. Is there anything that's like a favorite type thing that you sew a lot of?
When it comes to just because sewing and embroidery it's just a slight difference. Like when it comes to just the sewing part, a lot of the times I, like a seamstress, I will do hemming, things like that. But I also, when it comes to the graphic designing, I design clothing. It can be, and I've even designed scrubs for doctors in Rhode Island Hospital. Yeah, I've designed their scrubs and I would get the material, from many different, it could be Hobby Lobby, Joann's, wherever you can buy actual material from, and I would create the clothing. And if they want their name on it, I will embroider the clothing or a logo, whatever it is that they want. So most of the time it's mainly clothing that I will create when it comes to the digitizing and sew when it comes to the sewing.
So I have Dawn Spears was one of the artists. She was the first one in the series, and she's been doing a lot of painting on clothing, but she doesn't sew, and she was talking about how she'd like to connect. I think we should connect the two of you, and you could sew her some clothes.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing, unique design style abstracts that she paints she's been on walkways and runway shows for art. But someone else needs to make the clothing. So I think that might be a really nice partnership. We'll have to connect the two of you and see what happens.
I would enjoy that.
What magic you can make.
I know. I'll be definitely willing to do that. I love it. I love it. Anything creative I love. That's what keeps my mind going and not being idle.
So Sherry Bodie is asking, do you make ribbon shirts?
You know what's funny about that? I haven't made a full shirt from the beginning of the design to the end of the design, but my aunt, I'm not sure if you know her, Ollie Best. Yeah, like there has been times where she'll have a design and she'll want it embroidered before she actually creates the ribbon shirt. So I haven't made one myself, but my aunt makes them, but I have embroidered one or two or three. Yeah, so I definitely would like to link up with my aunt also, because along with the embroidering, I do want to make my own ribbon shirts. I want to make one for my son this year. So, yeah.
Well, and a fun way to start, particularly for gift shops and things like that, is kid sizes. And the adults, you kind of have to do to order because we're very specifically sized. But for kids, you can sometimes get away with a more generalized size, and toddlers and such. So they're very popular. So I think you would do really well if you started adding to that. Because I know that Ollie can't always keep up with the demand that's out there. So
yeah.
You'll be able to share the opportunities there, because she's a talented artist. We've had her here teaching the Native community how to make ribbon shirts in the past during our our arts and wellness series, where we had under our Indigenous empowerment work. And so we would certainly love to have you to do some of that work and maybe teach some embroidery as well as painting and things of that nature. And we will definitely have you on our list now that we've gotten so acquainted, because we do a lot of collaborative art shows around the region, not just in Rhode Island, sometimes just in nearby Connecticut and Massachusetts as well. So we'll be certain to make sure that you're informed of those opportunities as they come.
Nice.
I'm wondering if there's anything else. Silver Moon is sharing your contact information in the chat for everyone. But I'm wondering if there's anything that we didn't cover that you really would like to add or share before we go to see if any of the audience has any questions that were in the chat.
As far as with the contact information that she does have, at this moment, I wouldn't say that there's anything to add to that, but I will say that I'm working on, it's in construction right now, but I'm working on a new website. And this website is going to not only have my art, but it's going to have my embroidery and my graphic design. It's going to have everything onto this one website. So as soon as I get that done, I will be sharing that on my social media so that everyone can go and you know, get onto the website and see what items I do have. I'm hoping to connect with my aunt. I know you know Desi, because, and I'd like to kind of put this in there. She makes the jewelry.
Oh, they're beautiful.
And that's one of the earrings that I'm wearing now. But she does the Dreamcatcher earrings, necklaces, she does bracelets, everything, you know, so, and also the sacred pouches she makes as well. So I'm looking to connect with my aunts, you know, or even other people, because I don't want the website to be just me. I'll be honest with you. I want more people to get, you know, noticed, and I want more people to get acquainted with the work, especially within the culture.
Yes, and I'm sure Silver Moon, if you give her the information, can make sure we can connect our website to yours so that you can get back and forth traffic as well.
Yes, definitely.
Our Indigenous empowerment pages.
Definitely, I would love that.
And I see a question. The question was, the Without Justice There Is No Peace painting, is that Tupac inspired?
Yes. Yes. And may he rest in peace. You know, he's, and if you listen to a lot of his music, he's very, it's like, it's really strange because it's like he knew that something was going to happen to him. So if you listen to his music, he talks a lot about, you know, the people that didn't like him or people that were coming after him or didn't like the Black African-American culture. So he is really, he's a very big inspiration to me, even though he's no longer here. When it comes to the African-American culture, because he made a lot of marks in a lot of people's hearts and their lives. So yes, that is Tupac inspired.
So I'm wondering if anyone in the audience, I know some of you have you're on your lunch break, so you've got your screens off, but if you have a question, one, you can put it in the chat. Two, you can pop on the screen, audio or video, and just ask a question of Canden as we're finishing up this section.
Hey, so you've said that you use art as, you know, sort of therapy for yourself. Do you have a particular medium that you prefer for that, or does it change based on your mood?
It does change based on my mood. Yeah, it does change. Most of the time I'm doing acrylic on canvas. That's mainly the main thing. But then there's been some times where I did oil paintings on just panels. And again, with one of the work that I showed you with the sketching. So, and that's just on regular paper or construction paper, as you would like to call it. So it always kind of goes with the flow, but mainly it's acrylic on canvases. Yeah.
And did you mention on one of the things that you said you did it on a big piece of wood?
Oh yeah. That was the first time that I did that. The first and last and only time that I've done it. But you know what, I have to say, when you're using acrylic on wood, it's a little difficult. I would like to try oil on wood one day, because I think that will kind of go a little more smoothly because the acrylic, I had to continue to go over it and over it and over it and over it because the wood like sucks it up. But it was actually really fun to do that on wood. I was standing on the wood and sitting on the wood and I'm like, look, this is cool, you know, and it was huge. So it worked out fine with the acrylic, but I would like to try wood another time with oil or even water paint. Well, I don't know if water would work on wood, the watercolors.
Yeah, Debbie Moorhead, who was she's Wampanoag and she's a really amazing artist. She's done quite a bit of work on wood. We can happily connect you to her because I think she does it with oils and acrylics. So you might have a conversation about, you know, best practices with that.
Yeah, definitely. I would love that.
I love the opportunities for the collaboration and opportunities in the grant funding, the Rhode Island Foundation. I said, well, they have an arts fund as well, but I was thinking Rhode Island State Council on the Arts and the New England Foundation for the Arts. There's some great opportunities for artists to collaborate. So you might, you know, as you're looking into different grant funding for your artwork, you might consider those thoughts. Those places and you know, collaborating with different artists, native and non-native. It's always nice to cross collaborate in different kinds of ways.
Definitely.
So, are there any other last questions?
I did have a question for Canden, and it's kind of similar or piggybacks off of Karen's. So have you ever like mixed the different medias that you do? And I understand it'll probably be difficult to like embroider on canvas, but have you like embroidered on fabric and then maybe painted on it and then maybe threw like some feathers or wood or like whatever you can find?
Yes.
The tiger that you painted, like the eye didn't look like paint, like the
Uh-oh.
So I don't know if we heard your answer, Canden.
No, I didn't hear the finishing of what she said, but I did get the eye didn't look like paint. And you know what's funny? It really doesn't, but I actually used all acrylic with that. And that was on canvas, but I used all acrylic. There's times where I will mix acrylics, you know, because there is, we have the matte acrylic as well as the gloss. You know, so with the eye, I used a lot of gloss. I wanted to make it look more of a realistic look. And a lot of the times with realistic look, like when you're painting a vase or, you know, glass or something like that, you want to get that realistic look. But yeah, it was all acrylic. It was all acrylic on that one. I did mixed as far as I've done. I've used glitter in the past on some of my paintings. I used acrylic and charcoal on some of my paintings. So sometimes I will throw in something else there, but majority of the time I have like a bunch. I'm looking at it now, that's why I'm looking over here. I have a bunch of, you know, big, huge acrylic paints. So majority of the time it is just the acrylic, but in time, I do want to use a lot more different things. I know there's a lot out there within the art world, like it just doesn't end. Kind of like the medical field, which I also have a degree in that as well. But yeah, it's forever going on. It's never ending. That's the word for it.
Well, I'm sure those questions will give you some inspiration as you think forward to your next projects and next ideas, because everything that you do is just truly phenomenal.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure if anyone else, I don't want to rush anybody, but if anyone else has a last question, I'm checking the chat. I don't see another question right now, so maybe we will just thank Canden for her amazing presentation. And, you know, truly, Canden, it's a blessing too that you shared your personal stories with us. Those are difficult to sometimes do to share, but it makes the art and the getting to know you, as audience members, a really personal experience to share your journey, and I'm sure this will inspire other people to use arts, whatever form. You mentioned it's in everything, whether you're a mechanic or painting, weaving, drawing, sewing, embroidering, like anything that will help you through our difficult days. And we all know that we're living through difficult times that is really hard on our psyche. I was listening to NPR this morning, and they were just talking about the suicide rate is really jumping up. So please send positive prayers and best wishes to people, and encourage them to know that they're not alone, and that they should reach out if they're feeling alone and feeling scared and desperate in this difficult time. That there
Definitely.
is, sunrises to come, and that will put us in a better space, and we can look at the beauty of your paintings and feel that positive energy to go forward. So thank you again. Thank you.
I did see a question from Karen, and yes, I do.
What was the question?
She asked if I sell prints of my artwork.
Oh, yeah.
I looked on your Facebook briefly, and I didn't see a shop there. Where can I?
Can's Arts, actually, if you go on to Facebook and you type in Can's, KANS ARTS. Separate.
Yeah, Silver Moon did put that, and it's under Tamaquag Tech. There's the Instagram link, the Facebook link, and the Twitter link already in the chat. It's just before your question.
I took the actual link from my old website, because the website that I'm working on now is still in construction, was where you would actually go to purchase the prints. But like, I'll say within the next week, I will have the new link for the new website back up there for to go into the actual shop, which will be on the website. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you again, Canden, for sharing with us today. And thank you all for joining us for this presentation. I have a few quick announcements. Our next session of Quarantine Creatives is scheduled for Friday, October 9th. That can't be right. That cannot be right. It's 2 weeks from now. It's not the 9th. It is the
23rd.
The 23rd. Thank you. I'm like, my note is telling me something wrong. The 23rd, and it will be with Nyana LaFond at noon, and this series will continue throughout the fall, celebrating amazing Indigenous artist women as we celebrate the year of the 19th Amendment. We hope you return for these free programs, and you can find the link to register on our website under our events, which I believe Silver Moon put in the chat. Along with virtual programs, Tamaquag Museum is now open for small private tours by appointment only. You can visit our website for details or give us a call to schedule your visit. Thank you again to our funders at the United Way, the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts, the Rhode Island Council for the Humanities, and the New England Foundation. Please consider making a tax-deductible donation to the Tamaquag Museum via our website to help us to continue these types of programs. You can also support Tamaquag Museum by shopping at our new online store, or when you come to visit in our in-museum store. We are featuring a number of Native American artists, about 35, and hopefully Canden will be one of our new artists coming soon. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope to see you again in a few weeks. If you're not aware, Silver Moon is also leading a sci-fi book club that is going very well on Tuesday evening. So if you are interested in other kinds of programming, check us out on our website, tamaquagmuseum.org/events, and check out our new events as they come up. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Canden, it was fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.